one. And welcome, everybody, to Between the Stripes. This is your daily diet of Indiana sports. Well, last week we were talking offense with the crew. This week we're switching the sides of the ball. We're talking defense and international champions and how they were really the glue that held the last year's team together. We're going to talk about how this year's team, we're going to talk about the depth and maybe how we can possibly get better, if that is possible. So last year's defense held opponents to 12.5 points a game, and we were a top 5 defense in almost every statistical category, which is just impressive. And we were alluded to last week. We were talking about Mendoza and how great I thought he was, but how the defense really carried us throughout the year. But not only did they carry us from a standpoint of holding teams down, but think about all the times that they brought him and put him in an advantageous spot where they tackle people back in their 30s and sack people back in the 20s and 25-yard lines. And he gave him a short field. Mendoza didn't have to do much, but just throw a couple over-the-shoulder passes, and we're in the end zone. So tonight we're going to talk about that a little bit. So without further ado, let's bring in the crew tonight.
Indiana, let's go. Crimson Crew in the building.
Well, you know the music and you know what that means. We're going to welcome in the crew. Brian, how was your week, brother?
Hey, my week been very good.
Good to hear. Scott, how's your week going, bro?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad.
Well, tonight we're going to start with opening remarks, something new we're going to try out this week. So, Brian, what's your opening remark before we get started tonight?
My opening remarks is surprise, surprise. Signetti said something about Notre Dame coming to Indiana and playing at Memorial twice and going playing there once, and Notre Dame Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, the message boards, they're got their panties in a wad. So my opening remarks is, you know, if you want to complain about our schedule, maybe you need to join a conference so your schedule ain't bottom tier ACC and Big Ten teams, and you only play one tough game, Miami. So join a conference, Notre Dame. It's not that hard.
I'm with you, Brian. I'm 100% with you. My opening remarks are actually kind of tied in with yours. I guess the other day, Dick Vitale ran his mouth about how Indiana doesn't schedule a bunch of cupcakes. Vitale, we played six top 10 teams last year. Oregon twice, Ohio State, Alabama, which we gave a butt whipping to. Dickie V, how many top 10 teams do we got to play a year to suffice you? You're a great basketball mind, and you know the 80s are over. It's time to sit back in your rocking chair, relax, and throw your input on a couple of college basketball games, but leave football talking to the pros here at the Crimson Crew, all right? What about you, Scott?
Well, you know, I really enjoyed a lot of the stuff that I saw over the week. One of the things I saw, which I was kind of intrigued about, was an interview with Haynes on the Big Ten Network where he spoke about moving or doing more of a 4-2-5 defensive lineup. So I started really working on what the projections are going to look like for that defensive squad. And, man, I tell you what, the amount of depth we're going to have is going to be insane. So I'm just super stoked with looking at what those lineups could be and about how we'll be able to run 3, 4, 5 players, you know, in and out all the time and not really miss a beat. So this defense, I don't know how it could be better than the number 2 defense that it was last year. But, man, I think we're right there.
You know, you mentioned that, and I was watching. I think I might have been watching the same thing that you were watching. Something that intrigued me about what Haynes said was talking about running different packages. So tonight we're going to break down what we assume would be some of the positions they may play. But the way Haynes was describing it, there's going to be positions on the field where he runs different defensive package. You may see 2 different players in the same position just kind of doing their thing, and you know. So I think that's interesting. But tonight we're actually going to break down the positions and see the depth. We're going to start off with you, Scott. We're going to look at the defensive end position. And I got Josh Burnham and Chidi Obiazar. And what do you think about that? Who do you think gets the nod at the start? Or do you think what are you looking at for that?
Yeah, I got Obizar and I have Osu Somni as my 2 defensive edges that are going to come in and kind of run that defensive end and edge in that stud position. I think Chidi's going to be kind of the strong side, whereas Toby will run more of the hybrid edge, and he may even because of his size and speed, may run a little bit of that outside linebacker position as a hybrid.
Okay. What about you, Marshall? We're going to talk right now about the nose tackles. You got Gervavius Hall. That's a hard name to pronounce. And
Very hard.
Tyreek Tucker. I think obviously Tucker may get the nod, but what's your thoughts on that position as well? And would you throw anybody else in there?
No, I wouldn't throw anybody else in there. I think Tyreek Tucker, I think it's his spot to lose. I just think he's got a knack for the ball. He's quick off his feet, got good hands, and he's just a hard defensive guy.
Okay. Our next thing we're going to look at is the defensive tackle. I got in this spot, I got Mario Landino. Excuse me, I said Mario Landino. And I guess it's pronounced Joseph Heil, or is it pronounced Hale? I can't really. It's Hjelle. I'm going to go with Heil on it. Scott, what's your theory on this this position?
I think that one is definitely Landino's position to lose. But, man, like I said, the depth is going to be just insane. I'd be honest with you, it would not surprise me if we run out players for 4, 6 plays at a time, like balls to the wall, and then just bring in the second unit to just pound teams to death.
Sure. Brian, when we're talking the stud position, we was looking at, Scott mentioned earlier, Osasami, which will be filling that stud position a lot. But also the one I talked about last week, I threw him out there, in Ndukwe. What's your thoughts on that position? Who gets that nod and who brings in the minutes?
That's a tough one. I can see it be like a 50-50 split, but it's going to be hard to keep Ndukwe off the field just because he's used to the system. He knows it. Yeah. And the last 4 to 5 games he played last year, it was just like he got so much better through the season.
Did I remember right? Was Ndukwe and Osasami, they both come from Kansas State?
No, Obiazor and Osasami.
What was that?
Toby and Cheedy both came from Kansas State.
I can't remember where Ndukwe came from. I was trying to think about that earlier. Let's look at wide outside linebacker. I have Scott. I'll have Elijah Hardy and Jeff Utzinger. Obviously, Hardy will get the nod. What do you think that position is going to look like for us this year?
I think we're going to run a lot of different scheme packages where we're going to see some guys that are going to be playing what I would consider more of your corner or linebacker, like flex positions or rovers. So it's going to be really hard to say, but I think Jones and Hardy are going to be your two linebackers. And then you're going to see a lot of rover action and a little bit of, maybe switch up where Osasami's so fast. I think he can also play into that position or flex in.
Well, the guy was talking about on the Big Ten network last night. He was talking about how Elijah Hardy and Stephen Daly, and he mentioned one more. I'm trying to think who it was just the 3 athletes on the team that were just all standouts. He said those 3 guys are heads and tails above everybody else. I can't remember who the other one was for the life of me. But anyway, Brian, we're going to look at the middle linebacker. You got Caden Turner, and, of course, our boy Bones Jones, getting to the quarterback when at will. What's your thoughts on that position?
I mean, I love that position. I mean, I think it's the most important position on the field because that's who wears the green dot. And I think Jones is going to wear the green dot. And whenever Aiden Fisher went out last year, he missed a game. Bone Jones had the green dot, and it didn't miss a beat. I don't think that position is going to go down at all. I think it's going to be pretty much exactly what Fisher was with Jones.
Yeah, he filled that spot seamlessly. Scott, you had mentioned in your notes prior about, what it's going to be like to replace Aiden Fisher. How do you replace Aiden Fisher?
I mean, you really you hope to find someone else that has a nose for the ball that he does. I think what happens is, though, you really just run packages to kind of take some of those brain powers. I feel like Aiden was just extremely just bright between the ears.
Yeah.
And I think when you use other players to kind of help with that scheming, they just kind of know. But like Brian said, I mean, Isaiah did just such a fantastic job taking the green dot when Fisher was out those couple of games last year. I don't think we'll miss too many beats with that.
Well, I'm going to stay with you for a minute, Scott. Let's talk about that left cornerback. Let's talk about Shannon Sharp, and I'm trying to think of the other guy, Rye Gandy, who Signetti says is making strides in the fall camp. I really like what he brings to the table as well. Of course, our boy Sharp did save the national championship game from us with that amazing interception. What do you look like in that position, Scott?
Yeah, I think Jamari is going to do such a great job with our team overall. He's kind of got more of that speaking role. If you kind of listen to some of the other things that I've seen from other podcasts, other analysts, things to that nature, they talk about the guys that are the most vocal on the team, and they say Jamari Sharp and Preston Zachman seem to be really, really the most vocal on that secondary. So I think that he'll be able to keep that position, and I think just the freak nature that AJ Harris is, that he'll round up that other CB position.
I think there's going to be a lot of interchangeable parts on this defense. I think you're going to see guys play multiple positions just because there's going to be a call for it where there's lack of depth in certain areas. And that lack of depth, we're coming to you, Brian, on. What about the strong safety? We do have Zach Pressman, and we also have the Stewart kid. I can't remember his first name, Ciante or something like that, Ciante Stewart, which really hasn't got any play whatsoever. So we are pretty mild.
Pretty thin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's where I see other players like Elijah Hardy coming in, playing that strong safety at times, or other players. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I just think that's what makes our defense elite is we could take somebody else and plug it in that position if we have to have somebody play that position if somebody's not up to standard.
Scott, speaking on the same wavelength as far as positions, we're going to talk about the free safety with, of course, you got Mari Farrell, and then you got the other guy, Stewart's his name, Stewart Jr. or whatever. What do you feel about that? I assume Farrell will be getting a multiple of the snaps, but can this other guy back him up whatsoever, or is it going to be a plug and play again?
Yeah, I've got every bit of faith in what Bryant Haynes, brings to the table as far as, that scheme and running. And I think that's why he's running a lot more of this based on what he's saying, right? The 4-2-5, because he feels like he can plug and play from that secondary position.
Brian, we're going to you for a second for the right cornerback here. And I know Scott's big on this guy, and his backup is kind of questionable. Well, no, I wouldn't say questionable. He got quite a few snaps last year. Jalen Bell got quite a few snaps at their right cornerback. But he's high on AJ Harris. Are you high on Harris as well, or are you just kind of like this could go either way?
No, I'm pretty high on AJ Harris. I mean, he was a 5-star coming out of high school, went to Penn State, and had a very good year. Not last year, the year before. Last year, he's kind of a down year. But I think with our coaches that we have and just the way they coach, the fundamentals, I think he's going to be better than he was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Scott, let's talk about Nickelback for a little bit. I'm not talking about the band from the 90s, okay? Let's not talk about that Nickelback. Talk about the position. We're looking at Brian Baldwin and Quan Sanks. I like both of those guys. I truly do. I could go with either one of those. I think Baldwin gets a nod, but, man, Sanks is pretty impressive as well. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think Baldwin's going to get the nod, but, man, Sanks did such a fantastic job at Cincinnati last year, played a ton of minutes. And I think that, you'll see a lot of flexibility from that position for us.
Well, that's pretty much I guess a breakdown of different positions. Like I said, I think it would be a plug and play a lot this year. There's going to be spots where, like Haynes said in the interview Scott was talking about, there's going to be a lot of things where we're going to do different things on different downs, or we got different packages that we can run at people. So I like that. I mean, that's great. That's the next man up mentality. We're going to compare a little bit too about our depth in the defensive spot. I was talking to these guys earlier. It's kind of like the 90s basketball. I'm going to give you some basketball analytics here. It's like playing in the 90s in Indiana. When you ran, Damon Bailey was coming out of the game. Calbert Chaney was coming in. I mean, pick your poison. When Allen Henderson went down for a couple minutes to take a breather, in comes Brian Evans, one of the most prolific three-pointer shooters in Indiana history. And then when Chris Reynolds was out for a couple seconds, here comes Greg Graham, man. I mean, it was like a mob mentality. There was nothing you could do to stop it. So that's how I look at this defense this year. And also, too, with this defense that I love is iron sharpens iron. They are making Charlie Becker better. Elijah Hardy Becker is wearing Becker out in the backfield. He is. And vice versa. Becker's wearing Hardy out. Hardy's probably doing everything he can do to keep up with Becker or Marsh or pick your poison on the wide receiver core. So I think iron sharpens iron. So I think that's something we're really excited about this year. The defense definitely makes the offense way better, and vice versa, in my opinion. Let's talk a little bit about hypotheticals, Scott. Let's see. Brian was telling me earlier, I did not know this just till a few minutes ago. I think you said Elijah Hardy led the team in sacks last year. I mean, he's getting in the backfield like that. Who do you think will lead the team in sacks this year?
I'd be honest with you. I think it's going to be one of our edge rushers. If I had to guess and pinpoint it, I really think, man, Toby Osinsami, he's just so good, and he has so much speed and agility. He could play the linebacker position. He can play the edge of the rush. Man, I think he will end up being our sack leader this year. That's just my take on it.
Who's your sack leader this year, Brian?
I'm going to go with the same guy that it was last year. I'm going to go Hardy just because he knows the system. And, I mean, he led us in sacks last year.
Yeah. That one's a hard one for me. I could go with Hardy. And like I said, the way these guys got Bones Jones getting to the quarterback a lot, my man Stephen Daly, he just kind of made a last minute, debut, so to speak, last year. And he led the Big Ten, tackles for losses, I think. Led the Big Ten.
He did.
And,
yep.
I mean, you're talking a guy that came in late due to an injury. So, I don't know. I'm up in the air for that one. Speaking of tackle for losses, Scott, who do you think is going to lead us there?
I'm having a hard time projecting this one. The main reason why is I think we've got so much depth. It's just scary when you sit and look at that line. Tackles for loss, though, I think it's going to be either Tucker or honestly, it could be, I like Obazor too. I mean, like you guys those guys are so fast. I watched so much Kansas State film over the last, 2 weeks. Those guys are really good, man. That was just, I think this might've been the steal of the offseason for those two defensive linemen.
Yeah, I agree. I was watching some of the film, and Tucker is just a freak of nature. And there's some shots there where he was just getting through, and the defense just the offense what do he wants to do? I mean, we got nothing for him. Even our offensive line, who is one of the top ones in the country, looking at Tyreek Tucker like, we got nothing for him, coach. I don't know what you want me to do with this.
And to piggyback that, man, just think about how if we start running up the score on teams like we did last year, how many times are we going to have dudes that are coming in that are playing in that secondary position? They're going to get tons of tackles for loss because those dudes are so wore out playing against that just reverberation of four dudes coming in, run after another, just pounding the heck out of them.
That's an interesting way to look at it, Scott. Like Martin did. Martin came in and, after your boys shoot the running backs from last year, after they were pounding down your throat, Martin had fresh legs when he came in. Man, he was just running wild on the field. So, Brian, who do you think is going to lead us for tackle for losses this year?
I think it's going to be the guy that's got the green dot. I think it's going to be Bones Jones. I just think he's got a knack for the ball. I just think he's going to be able to see the plays develop, and I just think he's been coached great by Brian Haynes and Pat Coots.
I think I don't know why, but I'm so high on Dukeway. I think if he can get a shot, if he can get some minutes and some snaps, I think he's going to be a danger in the field. Let's talk about interceptions. Man, our Pons is gone, guys. Our Pons is no longer with us. I know that hurts your feelings. It hurts mine. It really does. What a phenomenal ball player he was. So now that we got to turn to somebody else for the interception this year, I'm looking at Farrell. I really am. I think Farrell's going to do it for us this year. Scott, who are you looking at?
I have Farrell and Harris as my two top, persons. Don't sleep on Preston Zachman. He played excellent defense last year for Wisconsin. He really understands that zone mentality, and he seems to have a knack for a nose for the ball as well. So those are kind of the three I'm watching. If I had to pick one right now, I'm going to go with Harris just because he's got elite speed.
Scott has that bro crush on Harris like I do on Daly. I get it. I totally understand it. It's awesome to see. Brian, what about you?
I'm going to agree with the professor, Scott there. I think Harris is going to be he's got all the attributes and tangibles to lead this team in interceptions.
Okay. Who's going to stick their paws in and slap away a few balls this year? Who's going to make you cough up a fumble? Who's going to be that guy that just gets in the mix? And when it gets rough, they're just going to slap the ball away. Again, I'm going with Tucker on this one. I really do. Tucker has a way of getting to the guy, and man, he lays a lick on him, and that's all she wrote. So I'm going to say Tucker gets the most forced fumbles this year. What says you, Brian?
I mean, it's very hard to call who's going to get the most
Sure,
fumbles just because we're everybody can just get a hand in there.
that's
So
right.
I'm gonna go with my breakout defensive player. I'm gonna go with Baldwin Jr. just because I think he's got a knack for the ball and he's just going to be everywhere on the field.
What about you, Scott?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bones Jones. I think that I think he will lead the team in tackles this year because I think the offensive line will slow him down enough that where if they get through it all, he's just going to bring them down. And he does got a great nose for the ball. But man, he has quick hands. You know, last year he had a lot of bats and everything else. I like Isaiah in that position.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm going to throw this one out. This wasn't in the notes, but who is your number one overall offensive defensive player this year? Who's going to be the best defensive player? Who's going to get the most accolades? Who's going to be, standing on that podium getting the defensive trophy on their chest next year? Who's going to be the best overall defensive player? Brian, I'm going to turn that one to you.
I think it's going to be the guy that's got the green dot. I think it's going to be Bones Jones.
Okay. He's going back with Bones Jones. Scott, do you agree with that, or do you got something else?
Man, I can't really necessarily disagree with it. just so I'm picking somebody different because I don't want to steal thunder. Though. I'm going to go with a little bit of a shocker here. I'm going to say Jamari Sharp.
Okay.
Last year, he ended the season so well. I go back to I was at the basketball game when they brought out the national championship guys, right? And then they showed that replay on Assembly Hall's thing, man, and Coach Sig patted him and brought him up to the front, dude, and you could just see the amount of pride he had.
Yeah.
That interception, and man, I'm telling you that guy's going to be hungry to prove that wasn't a fluke, and he's going to be really going after it this year.
I think we all know it wasn't a fluke. We saw him all season long and what he was capable of. That one was just in the spotlight, And man, I hate to say it, it scares me to think about it right now. Going back to look at that play, another 5-6 yards, we might have been on the losing end of that national championship, But man, Sharp was just in the right place at the right time. He sniffed that thing out. He really did. He sniffed it out. If it'd been anybody other than Jamari Sharp back there, we may be looking at a different situation right now. But thank you, Jamari Sharp. Thank you so much for that.
And listen, don't sleep. Kellen Wyatt is going to have a massive season this year, fellas.
Yeah.
I think that he won't play right out of the gate because of the injury last year, and I don't think he really will either. But I'm telling you, Kellen Wyatt is going to have a massive year. Most people don't realize how much he gave to the team, especially at the first part, and then when Daly kind of took that position over, man, Wyatt was a beast all year long.
Brian, are you a Wyatt fan too?
I am. I just think that he got to the quarterback a lot and he's quick off the ball, and you can't. I lost my train of thought there.
You're right. So yeah, I think sometimes, like I always say, sometimes the gate's coming down, the horn's blowing, but the train ain't coming. Hey, wait till you get my age, Brian, and you do that way more often. So you're still young. Keep it right there. Well, we're going to move around a little bit, talk about how the defense last year compares to the defense this year and what they're going to do differently with the different, the different personnel we have this year. Scott, do you see how it would look different any way possible, or do you think it's going to be same old, and we're going to run it back again?
I think it'll be quasi same old. I do think we will run more blitz packages than we did last year. I think Haynes is going to have to shake up a couple of things because now they have 2 years worth of tape on him at the D1 level, right? So that being said, I think we'll run a few more blitz packages just because we have so many athletes, guys. I mean, like the sheer number of dudes that we have that have burst on that defensive line on the secondary. I think we'll see more of those packages that will open up some more tackles for loss and also some fumbles and some interceptions.
What about you, Brian? What do you see different from this personnel and last year's personnel? What makes this better? What makes this worse?
I don't think we're worse by any means. I mean, we lost Angelo Pons, but you bring in A.J. Harris, which I think is going to get coached up to be just as good as the Angelo Pons. But I think, just like your brother said, I just think that we are so deep on just the defensive line that we're going to blitz a lot more. And Brian Haynes is a genius when it comes to that. And we're going to be so fresh in the second half of games, and we're just gonna, just like you said, depends with the quarterback. They're gonna be crapping their pants.
Yeah. The great thing about it is, um, in the last 20 years watching IU football, we had at times a really good defensive team. We had at times a really good offensive team. We just couldn't put them together. And also, too, when we play teams like Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State over those years, like Brian was saying, they were going 3-4 man deep, and we were still in that first unit because that's all we had, you know. And now we have that luxury of just sending in the dogs one after another. You know what I mean? We just keep the arsenal coming, and I think that's why we're number one in the nation right now. You know what I'm saying? That's why we're national champs, because we have that depth, and our depth just got deeper. You know, our ponds is left, but our lakes got a little deeper in Indiana. I'm liking what we're looking like this year. You touched on Coach Haynes, Brian, and man, that was a really good interview. I don't know if you've seen it yesterday, Brian. You need to go back and watch it. It was the Big Ten did the Indiana Fall Camp, and they interviewed everybody, Coach Sig, and it was really good. Coach Haynes has been a cog in this defense and this team for years behind Signetti. There's going to be a time where he's going to get enough money to just say, you know what, I appreciate it. I want to be a head coach finally, and he steps aside. How do we see that in the next year or two, or do you think we got him for 3 or 4 years?
I think we have him pretty much for the long term. I just don't see him. He's already come out and said that he has no burning desire to be a head coach. He loves his life right now with Signetti. You got to think, Signetti hired these offensive coordinators, 10 years ago for $9,000?
Yeah.
And now they're the highest paid, one of the highest paid defensive coordinators, and Mike Shanahan's probably top 5 offensive coordinators.
Yeah.
You know, money wise. They love their life. They go in the office, they do their job, and they go home to their families. And I just don't think that Bryant Haynes is going to want to be a head coach anytime soon, just so he can go home to his family.
What about you, Scott? A couple million going to keep you in the same spot and take that pressure off of you, and you just have to go home and eat Sundays with the family all night, or do you have that thrive to be the head coach and be in the spotlight?
I mean, he said that he really doesn't have a big desire to do it. I think Mike Shanahan will leave before he does. From that aspect, I think we'll have to find a new offensive coordinator or plug and play with Sinceri or whoever. But man, I really think Brian is he seems to be a homebody. You kind of talk to him, you look at him, the stuff he says on Twitter, you know, things like that. He just seems like somebody that really just enjoys being a defensive mind and really doesn't want the spotlight of being a head coach. So I really like the fact that we'll probably have him, you know, maybe he's the next head coach at IU. I mean, you know, maybe he's the guy that he's like, you know what, I'm gonna stay behind Sig, let Sig, you know, build this program, and then maybe, you know, at that point, maybe I'll be ready to step into it. Never leave Bloomington. I mean, heck, look at it from the broad scheme of things. Dude's making $3.1 million a year. Our basketball coach don't make that much hardly.
Right.
Why would you leave?
Go back 10 years. If you'd ever said our offensive and defensive coordinators were making what our head basketball coach was making, you'd be like,
it wouldn't have happened.
What kind of Quasimodo world are we living in? Hey, Scott, you know, that was an interesting thing you said about maybe he's waiting for the Indiana coach. That's why I pay you the big money, Neil money on this podcast, Scott, for you can come up with ideas like that. I had never really given it a thought. Maybe he is waiting for Indiana's job. Maybe he is the coach in waiting. And boy, I tell you what, you talk about not missing a beat. I mean, he's got that same mentality as Signetti does. So thanks for that input, Scott. Like I said, that's why we pay you the big money on this podcast. So I like it. I think you're right. I think it's a matter of you're right. Maybe he is waiting for it. Brian, do you think that? Do you think maybe he's the coach in waiting?
I think that in his mind, that I think that's a very good possibility, just because, you know, Signetti is the GOAT in our eyes, in a lot of people's eyes. He's not the GOAT, but he's probably the best coach right now in college football. And how could you leave that? Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, this has been a really good conversation, man. I love talking Indiana football. Who would have thought 10 years ago I'm sitting here talking Indiana football with some of my boys? Scott, what's your closing thoughts for tonight, guy?
You know, I think closing overall is we know the defense will be fine. I feel 100% confident of that. After watching a few more things from the offensive side, I think the chemistry's coming along. It looks like, you know, Hoover and Becker and and Marsh are getting some of those late night reps in, things to that nature. Let's just hope we stay injury free, knock on wood, and
You cut out there. Your mic cut out, Scott.
no, I said hopefully, we will have a really good team coming in this year, and without any injuries, I think we should be in fairly good shape. I'm really excited what this season's going to hold, and I'll be sitting up in section 107/108, man, just cheering like crazy.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go to bed tonight thinking about what you said about Coach Haynes being in the coaching waiting. Now I'm sitting there, man. Why did I think about that the whole time? Now, I'm going to bed happy tonight. Brian, what's your closing thought?
My closing thoughts is I thought Derek Owens, whenever we lost him to Tennessee, was going to be a massive, massive hit to defense and offense. But Tyson Brown come in, and I think Cincinnati thinks he's probably better than Derek Owens. And I just want to give a shout out and cheers to the great Don Fisher. Cheers.
Man, we love Don. You know what? It's going to be a sad day in Indiana. It's going to be a funeral for all ages, new and old, when Don Fisher retires. I don't even know. I'm going to tell my wife I don't know how I'm going to survive that. It's going to be hard on me. I grew up listening to him on the radio, sitting in my dad's bed, in Scottsburg, just laying there listening to him on the radio at night, just talk. I was so enthralled by him. The guy is the best ever. He's the best play-by-play guy ever. He's the best.
He is definitely the GOAT.
In every sense. He's a great interview too. So, well, I appreciate your time tonight. We'll leave you with this. Keep the passion, keep the faith, but always keep it right here between the stripes. Till next time, Hoosier fans, take care of one another.
Go Hoosiers.